Thinking about global power instantly brings to mind images of vast empires. The Roman Empire stretching across continents, the British Empire commanding the seas, and the Ottoman Empire dominating much of Eastern Europe and the Middle East. Even today, the changes in the international arena are largely shaped by the largest nations in the world, the United States, China, and Russia. In this context, it's easy to assume that size always dictates influence, and that smaller nations have little chance of wielding any significant power. Yet, there are a handful of notable exceptions to this rule. A group of small nations that have defied these expectations rise into prominence on the world stage in ways that go beyond their geographic size. As the world moves into the 21st century, power dynamics are changing. And while the world's biggest nations still hold immense sway, some of the smallest countries have discovered ways to wield influence that defy their size. Today, we're going to explore how 5 small nations have amassed influence far beyond their borders, and how they've managed to punch far above their weight on the global stage. But before we get into that, we'd love your support. Please like this video and subscribe to our channel for weekly geopolitical content. Our first stop takes us to Singapore, a nation that is about 728 square kilometers, or 281 square miles, with just 5.7 million people, roughly the geographic size of the city of New York, with about half the population size. It's a tiny dot on the map, but a powerhouse in global trade, finance, and diplomacy. Singapore's strategic location on the Strait of Malacca, one of the busiest shipping lanes in the world, has turned it into one of the globe's busiest ports. With an efficient and well-connected infrastructure, Singapore is at the heart of international trade, facilitating goods moving between the East and the West. But it's not just trade that has made Singapore a global force. The country has established itself as a financial hub, home to one of the most stable and high-performing economies in the world. The Singaporean dollar is one of the world's strongest currencies, and its stock exchange is a key player in the Asian financial markets. Beyond business, Singapore punches above its weight in diplomacy as well. As a neutral, stable country, Singapore plays an active role in international organizations, like the United Nations and the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. It has hosted talks between global powers, including the historic US-North Korea summit in 2018, highlighting its role as a diplomatic bridge between conflicting parties. So, what's the secret to Singapore's success? A combination of strategic location, forward-thinking governance, and world-class infrastructure. Singapore proves that a small nation, with the right mix of policies and opportunities, can transform itself into a global hub of power and influence, despite its size. Next, we turn our attention to Taiwan, an island nation of just 23 million people that sits at about 32,000 square kilometers, or 12,400 square miles in geographic size. It's roughly the size of one small US state, like Maryland or West Virginia. Taiwan is located just off the coast of China. Despite its size, Taiwan has become a tech giant with an outsized influence on the global economy. At the heart of Taiwan's success is its dominance in the semiconductor industry. Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, TSMC as it's known, is the world's largest and most advanced chip maker, producing vital components for everything from smartphones to military equipment. The global tech industry, including major players like Apple, Samsung, and Intel, relies on Taiwanese expertise. In fact, Taiwan is so central to global technology that it's often referred to as the Silicon Shield, because its dominance in chip production gives it strategic leverage in global geopolitics. But Taiwan's geopolitical importance extends far beyond technology. Despite pressure from China, which claims Taiwan as part of its territory, Taiwan has maintained its own democratic government and thriving economy. This has earned it substantial support from Western countries, particularly the United States, which provides military aid and political backing to ensure its security. Though Taiwan is not universally recognized as an independent state, the island is a center for democracy, human rights, and free speech in Asia. drawing attention from global organisations and like-minded nations. However, being a beacon of democratic norms when you're only 110 miles away from the Chinese border hasn't always been great for Taiwan. The tiny nation regularly experiences Chinese aggression in the South China Sea and is highly dependent on the US for military protection in the event of an attempted annexation. But despite this, Taiwan remains a beacon of freedom and innovation. From its tech prowess to its commitment to democratic values, Taiwan is a small nation that has built a remarkable global presence, one that challenges the assumption that small nations can't be truly influential players on the global stage. Now, let's travel to the Nordic region, to the Kingdom of Norway, sitting at about the size of the US state of New Mexico. With a population of just over 5 million, Norway might not seem like a major player at first glance, but this small nation punches well above its weight in both diplomacy and energy. Norway's vast natural resources, especially its oil and natural gas reserves in the North Sea, have given it immense wealth and geopolitical clout. Despite its relatively small size, Norway is one of the world's leading exporters of oil and natural gas, particularly to the European Union. This energy wealth has also allowed the country to invest heavily in sovereign wealth funds, making it one of the wealthiest nations per capita. But Norway's influence goes far beyond economics. As a neutral country, it has long been a key player in global diplomacy, often mediating peace talks in conflict zones around the world. The Oslo Accords, which brought Israel and the Palestine Liberation Organization together in 1993, is a testament to Norway's diplomatic reach and its ability to foster dialogue between competing interests. Norway also plays a significant role in global development and humanitarian aid, as it is a strong supporter of international organizations like the United Nations and NATO. The country's commitment to human rights, environmental protection, and peacekeeping has made it a respected voice in global conversations. So, while Norway might not have the military might of larger nations, its influence is felt through its natural resources, diplomatic efforts, and commitment to peace and stability in the world. Now we head to the Middle East to explore Qatar, a small nation with a population of around 2.9 million, with a land area of just 11,586 square kilometers, or 4,473 square miles, smaller than the US state of Connecticut. Qatar might not be large geographically, but it wields immense power thanks to its vast natural gas reserves and its strategic investments in global business, culture, and diplomacy. Qatar sits on one of the world's largest natural gas reserves, and it's the largest exporter of liquefied natural gas in the world. This has made Qatar incredibly wealthy and gives it the economic power to influence global energy markets. The country's wealth has enabled it to invest heavily in infrastructure, global sports, and high-profile cultural events, including hosting the 2022 FIFA World Cup. Qatar also punches above its weight in diplomacy. It's a key player in the Arab world and beyond, often serving as a mediator in Middle Eastern conflicts. The country has used its wealth and strategic position to form alliances with Western powers, including the United States, and is home to the largest US military base in the region. In addition to economic and diplomatic clout, Qatar has invested heavily in soft power, most notably through its media outlet, Al Jazeera, which has given it a global voice in news and information. Despite its media influence, Qatar hasn't managed to escape significant criticism and accusations regarding unjust labour practices, particularly in relation to the treatment of migrant workers. These issues gained international attention as Qatar prepared to host the 2022 FIFA World Cup. Despite this, Qatar's soft power strategy, combined with its vast wealth and strategic location, has ensured that Qatar's influence far exceeds its size. Our final example takes us to Switzerland, another small nation about the size of the US state of Maryland, but one that has managed to become one of the most influential nations in the world. With a population of around 8 million, Switzerland is perhaps best known for its policy of neutrality, its banking system, and its role as a hub for international organisations. Switzerland's reputation as a global financial centre is unparalleled. It is home to some of the world's most prestigious banks, financial institutions, and wealth management firms. Swiss banks have long been the go-to for international banking, offering stability, security, and discretion. Switzerland is also a key player in international diplomacy. It hosts numerous international organisations, including the United Nations office in Geneva and the International Red Cross. This neutral stance in global conflicts allows Switzerland to be a trusted mediator and venue for peace talks and humanitarian aid. Switzerland's commitment to diplomacy, human rights, and humanitarian efforts has solidified its role as a global leader. It proves that even in a world dominated by large nations, a small, neutral country can still shape the course of history. From Singapore's role as a global trade hub to Taiwan's technological dominance, Norway's diplomatic efforts, Qatar's strategic investments, and Switzerland's financial power, these 5 small nations show us that size doesn't always dictate global influence. In an era where global power isn't just military might, these small nations show us that strategy, diplomacy, and innovation can sometimes have a bigger impact than sheer size. So, what does the future hold for these countries and others like them? As global challenges continue to evolve, perhaps the real power lies not in territory, but in influence.